It's fine, sweetie.
Hey, it is me and you.
It's me. I'm Andrea.
And I'm Dani, Clarece, and this is a episode of It Is Fine, Sweetie.
You got a little munchkin back there.
Yeah.
With
Go ahead and move,
no
buddy.
no shirt on.
Yeah. So it's been a very interesting week in social commentary, politics, influencers, whatever you want to call it. And so I was interested in your take just because you have a lot of more experience and background with like economics and public administration. And so one of the things that I was most taken back by is knowing of a person in general and just like kind of grouping them into this group of people who like spew hate and racism and misogyny and like uh part of the Christian nationalist movement that is wanting to have white men be supreme and have the government kind of bake that into our policies. Um, Parts of me, whenever it all happened, was really upset about some of the commentary about like this being an assassination based on political views. And although that did turn out to be true, I think at the beginning, it just felt like, you know, admitting or saying that some of his views on on racism was politics. Um, I guess just gave way to like whether or not Black women's intelligence and Black people's intelligence and worthiness was up for debate.
I think
Um,
that it I think that that's part of like the larger conversation in general, right? Like that's the
yeah,
conversation that
and
we've
just
been
for
trying.
context, I guess, like, since we are sorry, let me give some context. So this week, we're recording at September 14th. This past week on September 10th, Charlie Kirk was shot and killed at a school function in Utah. He does a lot of what we might call rage bait, but what they call debates and discussions about just social and political commentary with folks. And I think it's called a Prove Me Wrong tour. He was shot in a very public setting, was recorded. It was immediately put online. And then there's been some debate about the response to that um, public assassination. And yeah, and this kind of call for empathy. The initial reactions were that, because they hadn't caught someone, they just assumed that it was going to be a liberal, maybe an immigrant. Even when they did have someone turn themselves in, the governor of Utah was just openly said that he had prayed that it wouldn't be one of them. And then when it was, he was disappointed. So it is a person who was born and raised in Utah. His family's MAGA. And from all accounts, it looks like he's belongs to a far right group called the Groypers.
Groypers. Groyver.
Yeah. Okay. So that's just some of the background, but one of the things that he had said, I think it was last year, that kind of upset me and caused me to block him on all these things was about this attack on DEI and how Black women are incapable of the mental capacity to be in leadership positions, and that when he sees Black women in leadership positions, he just assumes that they were given the role as a DEI hire over a more qualified white woman. So yeah, with that context and other vile and terrible things, but that was the one that stood out to me.
I think, and then part of what we were saying is like there are people, and especially white people, who understand that the things that Charlie Kirk said were racist, misogynist, homophobic, transphobic, but they still want to give the benefit of the doubt, right? Like they're just like,
Mhm.
well, they just didn't ever see that because they have a different algorithm or whatever. But these are people that spend all day watching these hour long podcast, right? So of course they
Right.
saw it. So I think that they're giving them too much credit, but I think the reason that they do is I think that there are a lot of people who in their own groups, their homogenous groups, hear and say a lot of things that not PC, right? Like you wouldn't say
Yeah.
them in mixed company, you know it's wrong, but it's just like, haha, hee hee, right? And I think probably everybody's guilty of that a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Some more than others. And they don't want to think that some of their friends are being serious, right? So they don't want to think that anybody that's ever said that because they've said it or they've been in a room and they didn't disavow it or they didn't stop it. So they don't want to
Mm.
think that anything's wrong with them and they don't want to think that anything's wrong with their friends. So they want to give them the benefit of the doubt. Like these people aren't like that, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that that's number one. And I think all of these things are insidious layers in the cake of current political discourse. So there's number one, I'm not racist. And some, number one, I'm not racist, but I've said and done some things that people could think are racist. And if we're going to judge people off of that, like that's not fair. You can't condemn me for my entire life because I know that like bad people are racist or racists are bad people and I'm not a bad person. And it's not fair to
Yeah.
condemn me for something that I may have said. I think that they don't understand the difference between like there are racist people and then there are people that say racist things. And I think that a lot of minorities are able to distinguish between the two of those, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to have an uncomfortable conversation, right? So that's number
Right.
one. And then number two, the calling it a political opinion and calling what Charlie Kirk does debates and honest political discussion, I think that that's also very insidious. And then, so the last couple days, I've gone down the rabbit hole of looking into like what a groiper is and what all of this stuff is, and it's
Yeah.
so interesting how deep it goes and how much power it actually has on the current political discourse, and nobody knows what it is, or the normies, you and me, we don't even know what it is. And so
Yeah.
I don't know even how to have the conversation because it's so, again, there's so many layers. So I guess I can just describe what I found out. So
Okay.
the Groypers, okay, in 2016, in
Well, I mean, does it even go back further to
it
like
goes
the
back
Tea Party?
to yeah, kind of, and Steve Bannon. Okay, so you know who
Okay.
Steve Bannon is? He hangs around the president right now. Well, he's always been kind of a
Still, I thought he was like exiled, but okay.
like he
I
goes
think they
back and
just
forth.
keep it more hush. Yeah.
He goes back and forth. So he was always kind of a shadowy figure, and apparently he made his money in video game circles. So
Oh.
he commanded an army of young guys who would play whatever popular video game, Call of Duty, shit like that. They would build up these characters, these usernames, and they get like good stats and good trinkets and all that shit. And then they would sell it to other kids. So basically, you're selling a cheat, right? Like you get to a high level and then you sell it off and then you go build another one and then you sell that off. So that's how Steve Bannon made his money. But that also really entrenched him in gamer culture, right?
Okay.
And then along came something called Gamergate. And I think we all kind of heard about it in the news, but it just didn't make a lot of sense. So there was a reporter who was talking about how I don't even know if she was really a reporter. She was just talking on the internet like she had a blog. She was talking about how games are sexist and men got really mad at her. Um, I think they doxed her. She had a lot of threats. It was just like a really bad situation. So that kind of solidifies the gamer culture and the online
Like
culture in
firmly
the like chat
misogynist.
rooms. I'm sorry, say it again.
I said it's firmly misogynist.
Yeah, and that kind of solidifies them and then gets them entrenched in these online communities. which is where all this starts. So they're in all these online communities and they have all these secret memes and gestures and code words, and they're all goofy. They're very, very silly. And that's important. They're very childish, they're immature. And if you saw them, you would just think, oh, okay, these are just people being internet trolls. They're just being silly on the internet. But
Yeah.
they form around all of these things, and that's how they recruit people. It's so strange. So the Groyper starts out, the reason that they have that name is there was some sort of meme and it was a typo. And this guy,
Uh-huh.
Nick Fuentes, who also was doing the same thing, building up characters and then selling them off for a high price and making both a name for himself and a lot of money. So he gets together a group of his followers and he starts a podcast. So all this is going down in like 4chan message boards, group chats, and podcast commentary. And their whole thing became to troll their Nick Fuentes is he says it himself, he is a white nationalist, he's a Christo fascist, and he's very political savvy. So he believes in this thing called hegemony, which is something that you'll hear a lot in political circles. And all it really means is one social group has complete dominance over other social groups, right? So in order
Yeah.
to achieve hegemony, they there are people called entryists and then there are people called accelerationists, right? So Charlie Kirk is accelerationist, meaning he wants to speed up the end of America so that he can he and his ilk and his people can rebuild it in their image. And because he's important in the movement, he'll have some power in the new government, right? But before the new government can be installed, you have to tear it down. And then there are interests who also believe that the system doesn't work for them because they want it to look the way that they want it to look. And they are just straight white nationalists. And that is what Nick Fuentes is. So he uses his podcast and all of these seemingly innocent memes and jokes and goofiness and video games to recruit young people. And a lot of people that have left the movement were like, I didn't even know that I was being red pilled. I just thought they were jokes and I was in on the joke. So they take all of this and Nick Fuentes does not like Charlie Kirk
Okay.
because Nick Fuentes thinks Charlie Kirk has too much power and he has too much power because he's too mainstream. So to Nick Fuentes, Charlie Kirk is a liberal, right? So Nick Fuentes sends his Groyper army, that's what he calls them. And again, that name comes from a meme. And they go and troll Charlie Kirk. They go to
Okay.
his little rallies on campuses. They follow him around. They get in his chat rooms. And the goal basically is to bully him into being more like them. Right. So they do all this stuff, and there are Charlie Kirk followers and there are Nick Fuentes followers, and they have meme wars, and they talk shit about each other in chat rooms and on the video game. So if you don't know, you can play a video game online and you can play it with people all over the world. So this is
Right.
also not just happening in the United States; it's happening in places like Europe and Canada too. It's international because you can play video games all over the world. So they get in these chat rooms, and notoriously, like, chat rooms on video games are very racist. Well, this is why, because there's a lot of racists in there fighting each other. And it just seems so silly and so goofy, but this is what's happening. So some of these people are
Right.
also like incels, which is involuntary celibates, which we've all heard of. And I think a lot of people just kind of write them off because we're like, oh, they can't get a girlfriend and they're mad about it. And sometimes they get violent. But apparently that wasn't the last stop. So people like Andrew Tate come along, and there are communities called Look Smaxing and um it's Look LB. Anyway, Look Smaxing and something else. But basically, um they tell the guys that you can't have what you want, you're not living the life that you wanna live, because you're ugly, and society
Right.
is inherently unfair because it's built to where pretty people get things, which there's some truth in that, right? Like,
Right.
there's is such a thing as, like, pretty privilege. And you'll always be ugly, so you just have to, like, give up on it because it's not really worth it anyway, and fuck women, right? So that's called black pilling. Oh, that's what it is. It's BP and LM, so looks maxing and black pilling. So they are
Oh,
when
yeah,
there
I
was,
think
like,
I
that
do remember
thing on
that.
TikTok where people were like, "If your eyes are too far apart or there's too much space in your head," and they were calling you, like, beta or whatever. Do you remember that? That was part of, like, the looks maxing, so that's what I'm saying, like, all their little trends kinda make it out into the public, right? Um, so they black pill these kids, and that's where, like, Andrew Tate comes in. "You're too ugly, you'll never be at the top of society, and that's why we gotta burn it down." Nick Fuentes is so that's accelerationist, right? Like, they just want the end of current governments here in the United States, in Canada, and in Europe. And then there are the Nick Fuenteses who realize that you have to win the culture, which is why he's so mad at Charlie Kirk because he feels like Charlie Kirk is winning the culture and blocking him, right? Because he wants them to go. He is a white nationalist and he doesn't even want brown people here. Like, he doesn't even want the good ones. It needs to be a white Christian ethno state. America does. So he doesn't think that they go far enough. And he's called an entryist because he tries to infiltrate social groups and engender them to his cause. So again, like, people don't know they're being red pilled or black pilled. They just know that they're in this community and they keep hearing all this stuff and they listen to it for hours and hours. And some of it confirms the way that they feel. And some of it's true. You're pretty people get all the good stuff in life. And if you're ugly, you're not gonna get it. So you just have to think about something else. You just
Yeah.
have to give up on it and it's not worth it anyway. And that is where we get to um femboys, which is not the same thing as transgender, but there are these guys. So because they've given up on women and they've given up on society, they don't just remain incels. There are these boys in that group who feminize themselves. So, like, they'll cosplay, like, their kink is, like, they'll cosplay in, like, military gear, but underneath it, it'll be, like, really sexy women's lingerie, and they'll feminize their looks, and they might even, like, date transgender people or be around them, but they in a derogatory way, right? So it's like, I only wanna be with someone who's transgender, like, male to female, because I hate women so much, but I also hate this person because they are kind of feminine. So it's again back to, like, a meme and owning them. Like, it's fucking crazy. It doesn't even make sense. So that's what they're thinking. This guy that shot
Which is,
Charlie
like,
Kirk.
why the Republicans, like, can't, like, put their brain to it because 'cause they're like, "Oh, he lives with a trans person, so he is right.
Right,
He is
but
a
but
leftist."
he's not trans. If he's anything at all, he would be a femboy. So he doesn't identify as trans, he identifies as someone who feminizes themselves and dates men, but as a joke. It's ironic. Um, but the reason that they can't go against all these people is because in 2016, Trump he joined the Republican primaries, right?
Mhm.
And nobody thought he was gonna win. Everybody hated him. JD Vance, McCain, everybody hated him.
I'm a never Trump guy, yeah.
It was Nick fucking Fuentes and his Groyper army who thought it'd be worth the LOLs to if Trump won. So he mobilized his base. They all voted in the primary, and that's how we get Trump as president. So Trump doesn't like Nick Fuentes. He likes Charlie Kirk. He thinks Nick Fuentes is too far, which is why Nick Fuentes is not in the public, in the mainstream MAGA universe. But he is afraid of him because he has too much political power. So all the congressional Republicans are afraid of Trump's political machine, of which Charlie Kirk is a part of that. But Trump is afraid of Nick Fuentes because Nick Fuentes, that's why they never say anything about the white nationalists, because Nick Fuentes
Oh,
controls
yeah,
them.
was that his group too with the tiki torches, or
So there's, oh God, there's so many subgroups, but they all overlap, right?
I guess, like, the challenge is, like, within the left, right, there's, like, all these subgroups, but, like, none of us can get behind the same candidate.
Right. So he can mobilize because he understands, if I win, I'm closer to getting what I want. If the Republicans win, I do have some power with the Republicans. So I'm closer to getting what I want. So that's why he's pissed off, is because he was guaranteed that they would go much further. So he's happy with the shit that's happening with ICE, and they're giving that to him as a concession, but it's not
Yeah.
happening fast enough. They're not going hard enough, and the white nationalists don't have enough power. But the people roaming the halls in the like, there are people in the cabinet who are part of the Groypers and part of Turning Point USA. So they are infiltrated in the current administration, right? So they can't talk shit about Nick Fuentes. They can't disavow any of that. It's just best not to talk about it at all, because Nick Fuentes gets on his podcast every night and he's like, fuck Trump. I'm not getting what I want. And he can mobilize. He basically has the Republican youth vote, and they are not MAGA. They're not, because they think that MAGA are pussies. So it is right to say that this kid was radicalized and that he doesn't share Charlie Kirk's views, but not for the reasons that you think.
Okay. I mean, I
So
think
I
that
say
that's,
all
like,
that
the
to say,
nuance. Yeah.
um, when they say it's just a political opinion and they're just words and these are just chat rooms, they are not recognizing that this stuff is offline too. Oh, and that's the other thing. There's this game called Helldiver or Helldriver.
Oh, yeah, I saw that too.
But the point of the game is that it's kinda like Starship Troopers. So, Super Earth is an intergalactic, and again, this all sounds so childish and stupid. Um, Super Earth is an intergalactic agency that's colonizing the universe. So all of the countries on Earth have come together, and they're all one nation. And that one nation is going out and colonizing the rest of the universe. But the rest of the universe, the aliens are like non-humanoid, so bug shapes, robot shapes, things like that, right? And so the game makers are very neutral on Nazis. So they don't view any kind of Nazi imagery. They just treat it as neutral, not good, not bad. So you can pick characters that are just straight up Nazis. And, so they go and they pick these characters, and, like, this is their fun recreational group activity, and then they go and they kill non-humans, bugs, and they call the bugs fascists. So, again, it's ironic. It's LOL, because we're the colonizers, we're trying to take over your planet, but you're a fucking bug, and isn't it funny that I'm calling you a fascist? So that's why they're confused, and they think that these people are leftists because they don't understand that it's LOL ironic. So that's where in the song Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao Ciao Ciao, there's that show on Netflix. It was like The Money Heist. It was like an Italian show, but they dubbed it over in English. Anyway, they rob the rich, right? And when they do, they sing the song Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao Ciao Ciao. So there is a gamer that plays this game, and he sings this song when he's dropping the mega bomb on the fascists, right? So on the bullet, there were those arrows, and you understand that it's like a cheap cheat code. It's a code in this game to drop a mega bomb. And then when that would happen, this guy who's like really good at playing this game, and remember, we started all this with playing video games and building up characters that we would then sell off the username, right? So it's all integral in all of this. They this guy who's really good, who's like a legend, he sings that song to disorient people, and then he drops a bomb on them. So that's why that was on the bullets. So again, Charlie, they basically they killed Charlie Kirk because it's funny. Wouldn't it be funny if I did it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like the part that's hard. It's like a weird cognitive dissonance, I guess.
And it should be, because what the fuck? That's insane. Why would you do that?
Yeah. I mean, and then I saw Nick Fuentes come out and like, say like, if you take up arms, I disavow you. And obviously that goes for the other side too. But like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I'm wondering, is this just like a high profile death to come from their like rhetoric, or like, because I'm assuming there's probably been other deaths. Like,
I
I feel like,
imagine I can't imagine that there haven't been. We just haven't probably, in order to connect it, we'd have to know the details of the case, and we know that we don't hear about every case unless it's really high profile, number 1. Number 2, we can't pretend like, you know, um, engendering a hate for other people doesn't lead to some sort of violence and bullying,
right. Yeah.
and we unless it's connected, how would the general public hear about it? So,
Yeah.
I
So I
don't
guess
think
it's
that
like
it's outside of the.
nuanced. I think like when we talk about like, racism being systemic and race and gender being like social constructs, like I guess they are all political. It just feels like so gross to reduce yourself to political commentary, like whether or not you are smart enough to like, you know,
But we have
earn
to
any
remember,
position or yeah.
they claim that this is something that the left has done, but it was something that they did, and then the left responded in a certain way, and then they're just really good at that interest stuff, right? Like, they're really good at owning the culture, which is something that Charlie Kirk does really well, which is why people think that he was a good debater. He's learned the art and the skill of rhetoric, which
Hmm.
is not like, we say rhetoric and we think that that is just shit politicians say to get elected, like it's just that double speak, but it's an entire art. It's an entire skill set that goes back to ancient Rome. Like, when we think of Rome, we think of what's called the age of Pericles, and his mom, I think I can't remember her name. Aspasia?
Hmm.
His mom is the one, she was a rhetorician, so she taught people rhetoric, right? So
Mm.
when we think of, like, the great philosophers, they were all engaged in rhetoric, so they learned how to get their point across and how
Hmm.
to win debates.
Yeah.
So the thing that Charlie Kirk is doing is not about actually confronting other ideologies. It's about winning points and making it look cool and inevitable that his opinions are fact.
It's like the fallacies. I was like watching someone. I mean, I've never done like debate courses, but I know that they were like, well, he just like has these
Yeah,
fallacies that he can like rattle off. But
right.
even like if you saw with was it Amanda, what's her name?
Seals.
Yeah, Amanda Seals. I was like, why was I gonna call her Amanda Steele? But with Amanda Seals, you could see some of that happening with her. I think it was her where they were like, babies. Oh no, it wasn't her. It was someone else. But it was like that guy who was like, they're raping and murdering babies. Like they're raping nuns. Like if you just keep saying they're like raping and then like using this group that we've all like decided is really innocent, then like we can, like we can derail the whole conversation because like this person obviously isn't worth our empathy or compassion because
Right.
I've said now that they're raping nuns.
Right.
Um so yeah, so I think that that's kind of like even I mean, with Charlie Kirk it's like, well, the president is trying to say that crime is down because of like how harsh he's being with immigrants. And they're like, pushing this around. And then like that's why he's going to Chicago. That's why he's in LA, because there's gang violence and all these blue states don't know how to handle it. And now crime is like non existent except for a little bit of domestics. And then when the gentleman is asking Charlie Kirk the question, he's like, the violence. And he's like, yeah, violence or gang violence?
Right.
Like, like trying to like have that whole thing of like, yeah, well, gang violence is inevitable because these animals can't help but kill themselves.
Right.
And so
And
we shouldn't even count them.
there's a reason that he's going to college campuses. Number 1, for the indoctrination, and then number 2, they don't have the life experience to even know that this is a skill. So they get up there and they're prepared, but they're nervous. And
Yeah.
he's 31 years old and he has all this experience of doing these things over and over and over again, right? Like it's just a game to him. And so he and his ilk have fomented this sort of thing that we see online all the time in comment sections where you're just scoring points against each other and calling it political debate, right?
Yeah. Where
So
you're just like, there's no real conversation. Like I think even a while back I got into not like I like not even on purpose, but it was just like this girl was saying she doesn't do coffee dates on a
yeah,
first date because like basically if you're so cheap then like don't even ask me.
yeah,
And I was like, dinner is a long time. Like it's just like sure we might have like, fun conversation like whatever, but like coffee is like non-committal. And then someone like started talking to me and was like directly like I don't understand blah blah blah, and then eventually it came out that she was like I don't understand why you would want to go get coffee when coffees and like alcoholic beverages cost the same. And I was like I don't drink. And so she was like oh well I didn't even think about that. And I was like yeah I again like plus you're like 25 so I'm not dating you anyway. Like I'm a
right,
43-year-old woman. And I was like, and so, and again, like, who is in my Tinder inbox is like going to be different than who's in your Tinder inbox. And most of the time with those folks, it is like, do you want to go get coffee? Like, there's not really a lot of like, let's go sit down at a five-star restaurant and have dinner for our very first meeting. But the conversation was like getting nowhere, and, like, that's been it pretty much, like, what you expect, but then you also wonder, like, why are people even commenting?
I think we have to
Obviously
remember that these people are like all of that stuff that I was talking about is happening on the internet, and it's happening with people who are 30 now, right? Like they've been on the internet since they were like 13 and they've grown up in this culture. And this culture very much is about the LOLs and scoring points online. So when they get online, it doesn't matter where they're at, they're trained to argue and score points, right? And they
yeah.
think it's debate. I think that's why bean soup came about, right? Like, I don't like waffles. Well, what about bean soup, right? You didn't say
Mhm.
anything about bean soup. So, like, it feels like a debate to them, and debate feels like conversation, but nobody's listening, and they're just trying to score points, but that's how they came up on the internet, and they came up on the internet because of these memes and these
Yeah.
groups, and so, like, they're trained and they don't even know it, which is why they can't recognize the
It's just so
propaganda.
interesting, like, how much of, like how many views they share with, like, older, like, red-pilled people too, who are not on the internet, and
Because those are the people that I mean, those are the views that the leaders have. Like, again, Steve Bannon is old as fucking shit,
that's true,
and
you're
he
right.
was fucking leading the earliest version of this.
That's true.
That's how we got Pizzagate, that's how we got Gamergate, that's why Steve
Yeah.
Bannon is Steve fucking Bannon.
But it's just so interesting because then there's like the turn is to be like, oh, well, then, but on this side, this is what they, what everybody's doing is like grooming these kids. But in reality,
I mean, if I were going to do that, if I were going to indoctrinate kids, again, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist, and they've done it. They've pulled it off because it's ha ha ha. It's just a joke. It's just a joke. It's a fucking poorly drawn frog.
yeah,
You think that's dangerous? You know what I mean?
yeah,
And then they have the advantage of having white privilege, so nobody thinks that they're dangerous. And and liberals have done the work for them because when fucking Tipper Gore wanted to ban violent video games, we were like, that's censorship. What the fuck?
yeah,
So we're on their side because we don't want your violent video. We believe that your violent video game has a right to exist, even if you can be a Nazi in it. Right?
yeah.
So it's like we argue their points for them.
It's wild. Like I said, been a crazy week. I feel like I don't know if you have, another time slot this week, but we could probably go deeper into it. But yeah, that's wild.
Okay, we can. Because I'm like, I'm down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely and I'm really kind of interested in Clarence too, even though I know he says he doesn't like talk or do politics, but I don't know. I mean, he's younger, but not that much younger.
Right.
So, yeah, and I was like, and even with my kids, like when you're talking about the bean soup things, like my kids do that thing too, where they're like, "Well, you didn't say this." Like even today, we went to brunch, and I was like, "Stop touching the light." There was like a light, and it was kind of hanging down, and there was like, "Stop touching the light." They were like, "Not touching it."
Which
You
is
didn't
like a
say,
very
yeah.
childish thing to do, which is why nobody takes it seriously when they
But
bring
think
it
about
into
like all the
Congress.
things that they're saying now that like to us doesn't mean anything, like 6'7", like I don't know what that means.
But
I it
like the
seems like
point
it
is,
means nothing.
it doesn't mean anything until it means something,
Yeah,
right?
and that's
Like
the
that's the
challenge is
thing.
that they're always, like, walking around saying weird stuff, and you're like, "Okay,"
The
you know?
point is to get everybody to say it, right? But then
Even
it
us.
becomes,
Like,
and
the other
even
day
us.
yeah, she did
Exactly.
that to me, and I said, "Oh, 6'7". I have no
Exactly.
idea why I did
That's
that.
how they win points, is if they can get the normies to say the thing, right? So
Yeah,
this shit's on the news and it's LOL, that's funny, we made it. Like, we got it, right? So it doesn't mean anything to me or you or the person reading it on the news. It's just hilarious. But to them, they're like, we're winning. Our side's winning. Our views are popular. Look how everybody's saying it, right? So, like,
or,
if
like
you put
yeah,
yourself in the position of a cult leader and you're like, oh no, everybody's going to be saying the things that we say. Look how
yeah.
powerful I am. So it doesn't mean anything to everybody else, but they're saying it because it's popular, but it's a good tool to use on the indoctrinated and to pull people in.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's about to get loud, so it has been another great episode of It Is Fine, Sweetie.
And I'm not
And
sure that it's actually fine, but it'll be fine,
well, that's the
sweetie.
whole point, right?
Yeah.
That was the whole point. Anyway. All
All right.
right. Talk to you
Love you.
soon.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the It's Fine, Sweetie podcast.